I'm sorry for the delay. I know I did say about an hour, but I needed a bit more time to chill out. And I've just had a good game of card, finished first with a diamond win, so I'm happy. Anyway, what this is in relation to is 22 years ago in a family family court, social services admitted to the 11.5 years abuse that I put to them that they put me under. They admitted it in court, to the point that at the end of the court, the judge in his deliberations turned round to social services, and he'd already advised the social worker to take Eliza out of court before this as well. But in his deliberations, he actually advised social services that they should give me an apology that was long deserved. 22 years later, I am still waiting for that apology. I've tried everything to get that apology to be stonewalled. I feel like I shouldn't have changed my name to Parcel because I just get passed on that many fucking times. Anyway, I'll try and not use profanities in this, but if I do apologise. But you've got to understand, what you're going to be listening to and hearing has been hitting me and my brain for the last 22 years, and I'm still going. Anyway, there's also been complaints raised against managers because what they have done is passed on information through their colleagues who have then relayed this information onto third parties. Whereby I've had a mass worker telling my daughter's school that if I turn up, they've got to phone the police. Now, I've got no restrictions on me from turning up at my daughter's school. You know what I mean? I've got no convictions, I've got nothing outstanding that stops me from doing if I wanted to. So I didn't appreciate that. Now, I raised a complaint. My complaint was upheld on 2 accounts against this manager. So you'd think that they'd do something about it, but they didn't. In fact, what they did do, after I pursued it, and you're going to think this is hilarious, but it's not. At the end of the day, what they've put me through ain't funny at all. But I pretended to be a uni student, and I phoned their HR department to be told, after I run my scenario through him, what they would do as their HR department. So at that point, I asked him, well, why haven't you? He then went away after asking my name, came back on the phone after a few minutes and said that he wasn't allowed to speak to me. I was then stonewalled by Sheffield City Council, whereby if I called any agency or department to do with Sheffield City Council, I got put through to a voicemail. There was a red flag on me not to speak to me. Now, they use their bureaucracy and legislations to hide behind that, claiming that I was being a nuisance. Now, if you are a person, after 22 years of fighting for an apology that should have been forthcoming, and along the way you get provided more information which shows more to do with the abuse that you actually received by this council, and you're chasing that, then you get seen as a nuisance and stonewalled. And they're very clever. They actually have a policy to shut people up and to block them out. Well, fact is, it didn't work with me, and I kept on going. Now, I did a subject access request. For those of you who don't know what a subject access request is, this: anywhere where you know information is contained about you, you have a right to go and gain that information. And what you have to do is a freedom of information subject access request. And you will get any information attained to you that they have got on you. Now, for example, if there's a meeting of 4 agencies and you ask for information, what you would do is get one lump of information from one agency. Anything else regarding the other 3, it gets redacted. Now, in the old days, they just used to black it out with a marker and then photocopy it and send you. Now, they just leave it as a blank space. So, it gets very frustrating when you're reading something and then there's big gaps and you can't make head or tail of what's being said. If that ever happens and you are in that situation, go to the other agencies and make the same access request. Because then what you get is their files regarding them, everyone else redacted. And when you've got that 4 times, you've then got a full conversation and information that was raised at any meeting or venue regarding yourself. That's how you get around that one. It takes a long time because each one is 90 days for them to respond. Then the users say that they're still making inquiries and that extends longer. My subject access request with social services started 12 years ago. They completed that 2 years ago after a big gap because they gave up. What the paperwork that they were looking for, they could not find. They've admitted they can't find it. So what they did, they raised a security incident in March 2019, advising about the missing paperwork. You think that that would spur people on to actually do something, but no. What happened then is I made an application to court for my daughter. I knew that about this incorrect information and missing files, and I put that to the social worker and her manager while she was writing the report, advising her that this was actually being under investigation. Well, more fool me for believing it was under investigation, because that's what I was told. But in March 2019, this security incident team did not start the investigation. What they did was wait 2.5 years until after my daughter's court case was over to even acknowledge that the investigation and the security incident had been passed to them. So that's been my battle for the last 3 years, is constantly asking them why it has taken them this amount of time, and they've still not completed the investigation after 3 years, of why they only started conducting it 8 months ago when it was sat on the desk for 2.5 years. That question has remained unanswered. Also at the time, I went to our counsellor, who for my area that I live in, Terry Fox, and I put all this to him. And the first words that came out of his mouth was, "Bit beyond my pay grade, this lad." That still rings in my head, because I've opened up to someone. If people know me, they know I don't open up. I keep everything to myself. I fight my own battles. And to hear that from a counsellor. Now, what they do is, they don't get involved as such. What they do is that they'll write a letter to the council asking them to provide an update. Then the update that you get is non-sequential. It's just basically a document to say, aye, we've acknowledged this. And I've basically told them, look, the only reason you've got back in touch with me is because fucking council has been in touch with you and you're just acknowledging it. You're not answering nothing. Everything that I've answered, I've got so many emails that have remained unanswered and the questions within it. So again, I put this to Terry Fox, who was just a councillor at that time, and 3 years later, the security incident that he was aware of still hasn't been completed. I'm no closer to getting my apology, but what I have got is a hell of a lot more on top of what I had originally, because now I have a social worker admitting something that I brought to the attention of social services 22 fucking years ago, and that was in relation to Claire of the I Love You Bridge. Now, that relationship came to an end because social services basically told her that if she had anything to do with me, they'd take her kids off her, scaremongered her into doing what they wanted her to do. Now, little knowledge to them, but it was said in my story to The Guardian and the BBC, is Claire and I was in a relationship for a year. During that year, her children was removed from the Child Protection Register. Social services didn't intervene until after they found out that we'd been cohabiting for a year. So that's where we were with that one. I raised a complaint. They denied it. Then in relation to my daughter, Emily, Amber, she emailed me, she's texted me, she's Facebooked me, she's called me. So I've got recordings of over the last 8 years of what social services have said to her. I raised this complaint within social services, and this is where my stonewall came from Ellen Sweeton, who's head of the department, has refused to investigate anymore. Even though I had Amber's word of mouth, what was going on in relation to the complaints of what I've raised. Still, they denied it. But when I come to court, this is the ironic thing, the social worker of the case, who did the report on myself, admitted under oath that for 8 years they have lied to my daughter's mum in relation to myself, and this is the reason why they lied. And this is for you parents that are fighting against each other and got kids involved. Take aware of this, because these are things that you don't get told when you're having this fight. And this is this. If parents are caught in a battle against each other, Neither of you qualify for legal aid. So what agencies like social services do is they will purposely keep that fight between mother and father to avoid you having legal representation to fight what they are bringing to the table. What they will advise you during the process of that report is that any issues you have on that report you are to bring up in the court arena. They will not discuss it before court. They won't sort anything out before court. What they will instruct is that you are to do it in the court arena. Now, if you had a solicitor, they would actually put it in a legal letter demanding that information. Now, yeah, you can pay for it, but you know, £250 to send a fucking letter from a solicitor to an agency. Believe me, I've spent thousands on solicitors over the process of the last 22 years trying to get justice. Anyway, so that's what social services do. They will keep the fight between mother and father purposely to avoid having legal representation. Then what happens, when you get into court, the judge will say to you, regarding the issues that you've tried resolving out of court, that these are not matters to be dealt with within the court arena. So you get stonewalled on what you need resolving. So basically, you've lost your fight in court before you've even fucking started it. Now, the courts are aware of this and do nothing about it. So what I did, I raised it with our, again, council at the time, who was now our glorious council leader, and I also raised it with our MP's office, Paul Blumfield. Now, Paul Blumfield, he hides behind the fact that everything that he does is governmental, it's parliamentary. This is council dealings. So basically, he passes a buck on to Terry Fox. And Terry's involvement from it is just sending a letter to the council, asking them for an update. Not doing anything about it, not chasing it, even though he knows all the ins and outs of the 22-year fucking fight that I have continued to have. So, this is where I am. I put everyone on notice that if by 5 p.m. today I have not got answers, then I am making this public. Some of you say I'm resilient, some of you say I'm brave. Well, you know what? I've got to say to that. No, I'm being fucking honest, and things like this should get brought to the attentions of the people around. Now, a lot of you, I've alienated you. You know that. When was the last time that you seen me? When was the last time I come to your house? When was the last time I messaged you? And you know why I've done that? Because it's easier for you. It's easier for me. When you're inviting me to your barbecues and stuff like that, I have to psych myself up. And the reason I have to psych myself up is because I know straight away people's going to ask me, how are you, Jay? How's everything? You know, I truthfully want to fucking answer that. It's not how I answer it to you. Because then I have to go into a conversation about what I'm going through. So it was far easier for me to alienate myself from everybody and cut you all off. And then some of you have criticised me for that. Well, you know what? You ain't friends. You're just people who I acquaint with. You've proven that. But a lot of you who are genuine friends, that's the reason why I alienated myself, is because this battle is not one that I want to be talking to about you. What I want to be talking to is things that are around me, things that are moving forward. But the fact is, I've never moved forward with this. I've been stuck in the same position for 22 years by this fucking council and the local authority. And you want to know the ironic thing is? Do you know when social services are in a city, they are commissioned by the local council? So the local council could tell social services to basically fuck off. Get out of our city, we do not require your services. Now, you can get into long and holes of why they don't do that. And you get into how much money is made in fostering and all that lot. That's a different issue, that's a different story. But those who are aware of it, you know that so much money is made between Sheffield City Council and social services as an agency through such structures like fostering. Anyway, like I said, that's a different story. But the fact of the matter is that Sheffield City Council at any point could remove their commission from social services and tell them to fuck off out of our city. Now me, if I was leader, oh believe me, I'd be pushing for that, for the amount of damage that social services have done to families over my lifetime. Now a lot of you ain't got a fucking clue. You were brought up in normal families, had normal lives. At 15 years old, whilst I was in F3, moving up to F4, I was living by myself. When I was playing rugby with you, or football with you, or running round at fucking school with you, I was paying my own fucking bills whilst you were getting home and getting your own fucking tea cooked when you came out fucking playing. Know what I mean? At 17 years old, my girlfriend, Cathy, was murdered. She was pregnant. Know what I mean? The man who did it, Graham Walsh, he lives in Kimberworth. I brought to probation's attention 3 years ago after being at a friend's barbecue, and it turning out that this friend was almost stepbrother. Well, his stepbrother was stepbrother to this murderer of my girlfriend. And it turns out that after all this time, him and his entire family have lied about why he was in jail. Their family was... They told everyone that he murdered a man who he came home to and found in bed with his missus. Not that he killed a 17-year-old pregnant girl. And his family led that lie for 30 years. And on the 30th anniversary, at a friend's barbecue, that's when it come out that one of these people that was there, who was stepbrother to my friend, was also a stepbrother to this guy. And that's when all the truth came out. So what I did, I posted the photo cuttings from when it showed, from the Sheffield store, of where she was thrown from, where she landed, the fucking lot. Posted a picture of him. His family responded, "That's my uncle, that's my blah blah," and that lot, "Have you got this?" Because in them days, everything were off shush. There were no internet in fucking 89. Know what I mean? So all the paper cuttings wouldn't be fucking visible. So I made it knowledge. And I hope to God I split his fucking family up into that many directions because of the lie that they've led for 30 years. That lie has affected me for 30 years. Now, most of you know, when I've been in relationships, I'm very protective of relationships. And a lot of that is to do because I wasn't around at the time to protect Cathy. I decided I was going to be tomfoolery, mess around with my mates, get into trouble with the law, get fucking locked up, and not be there when I should have been for there. Like I said, I was 17-year-old. Now, at that time you'd think that I would have received help from probation. I was still under a care order till I was 18, so social services had an obligation and a duty. Well, from my SARS request, I had a lot of information that I didn't know about, that did come up. And that was basically social services abandoned me like fuck. And you know, they actually removed me from a children's home. Because as you know, a lot of you, when I were at school, and I were a big lad. And it was the time that I decided I was going to fight against these people that were abusing us children on a regular basis. Now, yeah, I were aggressive, I were angry. Why? Because we're getting fucking beat on every bastard day. Well, I decided to start fucking fighting back. So what they did, they took me, after pummeling me, sitting on me, beating the fuck out of me, chucked me into the back of a transit van and dragged me to my parents' home, the house that they removed me from for violence, without any checks or anything like that. They just removed me. Well, that lasted a few months before me and my dad got into a row, and I got kicked out. And that's like I said, 15 years old, living in my own fucking flat. So, a lot more information come up. A few school reports, and Miss Hayes at Salvey Green, sending me to the back of the classroom for asking too many questions, or in her words, I was being disruptive to the class by not allowing other children to speak or ask questions. You know what? I'm 51 years old this year, and I'm still asking those fucking awkward questions, because no one seems to care or wants to ask those questions, because you're all stuck in your little fucking lives. Like I said, you go to work on your 9 to 5s, you come home stressed because work's fucking stressing you. You come home stressed because kids are fucking stressing you. You know what I mean? You don't know what fucking life is because you're stuck in a routine. Believe me, break away from that routine like I did. Go away for a while. Put yourself into a different scenario. And you know, when you come back, you'll have a much wider scope on what life is really about. That you're just stuck in that routine. Seriously, break away from it. I did 4.5 months in Southeast Asia, and when I came back it made me realise just how shit this fucking country is and how controlled we are as human beings, as citizens. Like I said, these agencies hide behind bureaucracy and red tape and will keep you entangled up. Now most of you, you're not concerned because you very rarely enter that situation. Like I said, some of you will be like watching this video thinking, fucking hell, what's this man on about? But those of you that have been brought up in that system and know that system, I bet you can relate a lot to this. And seriously, never give up that fight. They will try to break you. Believe me, they tried with me. In 2001, I took an overdose. Now, officially, I shouldn't even be here, because I made the decision that I didn't want to be here. But what happened was, a lady called Dawn White, who was from South Yorkshire Counselling, she found me in hospital. To this day, I've never been able to answer how the fuck she ended up at my bedside. Because her number weren't in my phone, and then, like I said, there weren't much technology in them days. So, I still don't understand how she was there. But every time I woke up out of consciousness, all that she ever said to me was, you are now in control. And when I woke up, and after, like I said, maybe 2.5 hours, I were in and out of consciousness, I had hours to make a decision whether I was going to live or die or not. Now, I suffer a lot of pain from what I put myself through for that time, and I have a lot of reminders of what I put myself through at that time. But I gained so much strength from that moment, because that was the first moment that I was given a voice, that I was allowing my voice to be heard. Now, these bastards, these agencies, this council, have persistently tried to shut me the fuck up. And they're failing. They might be able to block me one way or another, but now I'm going public. I've given them more than enough time to do the right thing. In 2001, I even wavered and signed a document that I would not take any financial claim just for the simple fact of receiving those words, I am sorry, we are sorry. I don't care about all the other bollocks that they put with it. I just wanted to hear those words. And again, if you know me personally, you know how important those words mean to someone like me. You can bullshit me as much as you want, but those words are they're integrity. And anyone who knows me knows I'm a man of integrity. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. If I swear down on my kids' lives I'm going to do something, you know I'm definitely going to fucking do it. So the fact of the matter is, I gave everyone today, till 5 p.m, to respond to what I'm going on about here. Now, there is a hell of a lot more, believe me. Like I said, it's not just all the scandal with social services, it's the fucking council themselves, that they are persistently covering shit like this up and still getting represented by the people of the city that they're representing. No, so, anyway, this is it. So, I've been honest with you. I've told you why I cut myself off from you all. When people accept that, they accept that. Whether they don't, they don't. I don't really get to folks. I've passed caring a lot fucking time ago. Yeah, it's lonely. Believe me, it's fucking lonely. But at the end of the day, what I'm doing is saving you from all the fucking shit that I have to go through. And the reason I say that is this. Mark, and I'm really sorry, mate, but I am going to be mentioning one of your friends here, and I really do apologise for it. Whew. Right, I can be at a friend's barbecue with mutual friends. Those mutual friends work within social services departments or other agencies related to social services. On a Saturday and Sunday, I can bump and grind with them like fuck at the barbecues, drink merrily, smoke merrily, not a fucking mention. But as soon as Monday, 9 o'clock, until Friday, 5 o'clock comes, we have to alienate ourselves from each other. They have to pretend that they don't know me, and I have to pretend that I don't know them. That is the fucking farce of social services. When I was also in court, I do charity work. I do a lot of charity work. Those that know me know I've been spending the last 3 years fucking rebuilding Sadaka, or helping to rebuild Sadaka. I mean, I give my free time up. Now, I do charitable work for women of the church as well. I've done quite a few things for the church. Even though I'm not religious, I do like the church for what they try to do, just without the religion. I don't think that that's necessary, because they do a good enough job without it. But anyway, diverging. Is a lot of these women, I come and do the gardens for them. They're old women. Know what I mean? They haven't got much money on the pensions, so I go and tidy the gardens up for them every so often. The same women, some of them work again, within agencies that work with social services. Now, this woman who I'd help out very well, I don't know if I used to, I actually cut myself off from it, but this one woman, I do her garden maybe 5-6 times a year, going helping her tidy it up for it. She would not provide me a reference because it would conflict with her role within the service. Now, she knows everything I've gone through. I've had her agreeing with everything that I've told her that I shouldn't be going through. But when it comes to representation and supporting me, she refused, saying that she can't because it's in a job description. Know what I mean? Now, that is the cover-up of these fucking agencies. Social services are governed by themselves. Believe me, I've tried. Know what I mean? The MPs, they're not interested. The council, they're not interested. The only thing that I get directed to is the government ombudsman. Now, I've been there before, and this is what will make you fucking laugh. I have got, in my bedroom upstairs, 5 boxes of paperwork, which was my paperwork in relation to when I was in court over my own children in 2001 and subsequent years. Now, this paperwork, social services again do not have. Within this paperwork, I have many documents which social services should have on file and haven't. So again, I've offered them the paperwork. Now, the response I got back from that is that they're not bothered about the paperwork because it was court paperwork. So I'm having to go down the lines of saying, well, actually, this information should be retained on file for my children forever, if ever they want to do a SARS request. Again, a question I've been asking for over a year, which remains unanswered. Like I said, I've had the Ombudsman involved before. I raised 32 complaints within social services. The Ombudsman upheld 31 of those complaints. 28 of them were fully upheld. 3 of them were partially upheld. Now, the information within these documents highlight the fact that social services failed. This was in 2001, 2003, 2007. Now, when we come to last year, when I was in court, I've got a social worker producing paperwork in court of 3 contacts that were sour. I'll admit they were sour. But when you hear the details of why they were sour and the subsequent actions that happened from that, you'll understand why I'm fucked off. Right, anyway, this social worker produced 3 contact reports basically to show that I've got issues with authority, that I can't work with these people in authority, blah, blah, blah. What I put to her was, I had 92 contact sheets, so why have you only been able to produce 3? I've been waiting for this security incident for the last 3 years to answer that same question. Where is all this other paperwork? If I've got a copy of them and it was used in court during proceedings taken up by social services, why have you not got them? Because to me it's relevant. When you take on board that there was, like I said, 90 plus reports and you produce 3 that are bad, statistically you have to say that they were very good reports. So that's what I tried doing. I got stonewalled by the courts of being able to produce that information because it was from previous proceedings. The judge would not give me permission to use my own paperwork. So I went down the route of the subject access request because if I brought that information into the courtroom that way, it would be submissible because it's been provided by social services. Now, this is something that they should have been able to do in the first place and didn't do. They can't do because they've not got the paperwork. They've admitted they've not got it. But yet they still are looking, still seeking. After 22 years, you'd think, right, let's work that out. You keep on telling me there's between 2 or 4 people on this daily, and they're working 40-hour weeks, times 52, that's a lot of fucking man hours that has been put in over the time for you to keep on telling me we've still not found it. It's a fucking joke. But until that, I can't really do much until they actually turn around and say, we are now stopping looking. And that's the predicament I've been in for the last 22 years. Anyway, the Ombudsman upheld my complaints, like I've said. Within those complaints were issues regarding the contacts. Now, social services were found to be guilty that they fucked up. They didn't organise things properly. They failed to communicate with these agencies that were facilitating contact, which caused issues on contact. I also won in court on contact on having venues changed to where we made the decision and weren't told where we had to go. We had times extended on that. Again, information that wasn't relayed to these agencies. So imagine, and as parent, imagine this, you only have 3 hours with your children every week. And that time you want to be constructive. You want to have a good time with your children. But you're getting someone telling you that you can't do something that you've just won in court. That you've got a court order stating that this is the way it happens. So you argue with the agency workers and it goes down as a bad contact. Well, in reality, the blame was accepted by the government ombudsman to be on the fault of social services. Again, if I'd been able to produce old paperwork, I would have been able to show this fact in court to show that social services were found to be guilty and responsible for anything that happened on these 3 negative contacts. But no, I wasn't allowed to do that. So, again, I've taken all this back to social services and asked them, when are you going to actually correct all this? Because this has now had a negative impact on myself in court, whereby I've had a social worker producing a document that contains incorrect information. And I'm still arguing that. So again, last week, I brought this to attention of Terry Fox once I found out that he's now our Labour leader, and I've asked him, what have you done, not personally, or even your office, to get me resolution in what I should have had resolution for 22 years ago? And all I've got from him is that he'll look into it. And that's where I am. Like I've said, they've had 22 years to give me the apology that they should have been giving me. 22 years later, I'm still fighting that fight. 22 years later, I'm still fighting to get records corrected, information corrected. And like I've said, my daughter's just turned 8. I've seen her for 2.5 months of her life, her entire life. And how that come about is when I came back from Southeast Asia. I was already in contact with Amber whilst I was over there, and we rekindled our relationship. We also fell pregnant during that relationship, but again, social services were telling her that she'd have her daughter removed from her if she continued to allow me to see my daughter. Now, if Amber had been stronger, we would have both got representation on any action social services would have taken, but that was the lie that they told her on keeping the argument between her and myself. I've proven all this. I've now got a social worker admitting it. So once I've got that, I put that again to this security team, advising them of what was said in court and that they can apply for them court records because they have the power to, whereby they will have on document a social worker finally admitting that because I've produced paperwork in front of them of their own writings admitting it, that the social worker couldn't really deny it. She'd look foolish, wouldn't she? I produced a document from MAST stating what they'd actually said to my daughter's mum, and her saying, no, we've not done that. She couldn't really do it. But then I found out this week is the security incident team or security information team are not going to be requesting the paperwork from the courts because they are not privy to any information within court. How crazy is that? A social worker has wrote a document for court. That report's been challenged. The social worker was challenged. The social worker admits that services have lied to my daughter's mum for 8 years, and they're not privy to that information because it was information within a court arena. You see, and this is where the battle just keeps on going round and round and round, because you can't put a complaint into the courts, because the document's in relation to a social services document. Social services will take the complaint but won't retrieve the information which is in relation to the complaint. So all that they do is say that they deny it. Like I said, I got stonewalled by the Sheffield City Council from not being able to contact any agency within Sheffield City Council. I had to pretend to, well, a lot of you know, I've done a lot of work for homeless and getting them rehoused and benefit claims. Even some of y'all lot I've helped you out with council and stuff. I had to pretend to be someone else to actually just conduct those telephone calls on behalf of people. And that's how far they actually stonewalled me. So like I said, I put them all on notice that today at 5 o'clock I would be making it public of the battle that I'm going through. Now, some of you like, oh God, it's just you. No, this is a man who was abused for 11.5 years under local authority care, has got many files to show that he has been let and allowed to slip through the system so many times. I've even got a report from a Dr. Thorpe, who was a psychiatrist at Northern General Hospital. Now, he used to be the doctor of a children's home I lived in called Sheffield, which is on Cherry Tree Road at Nether Edge. Now, whilst I was there, they used to inject me with Lorgactil. Now, for those of you who know what Lorgactil is, or if you've ever been on a mental ward, you see those people flaking about, they're usually on some sort of drug like Lorgactil. Well, they used to inject me with this because I was a boisterous child, let's say. Yeah. So again, that was the type of abuse that I received whilst there. Well, anyway, this doctor wrote a letter to social services advising that if they allowed me to return home for the Christmas period, because this home shut down at Christmas, was he believed that I would return home from injuries. Now, I've already alienated myself from my family, so me saying this ain't really going to have no impact anywhere. But, like I said, is that he wrote a letter to social services advising that I'd return back with injuries. Well, lo and behold, I returned back with injuries. But yet, when I was 15, they beat me the fuck out of me and dragged me, beat me up in back of a tranny van, sat on me all the way to that same house. Like I said, there's more than enough that I suffered. I don't hold it against people, I hold it against the service for allowing it to happen, and more so because they've had all this information. They admitted 22 years ago that this bullshit happened to me, and 22 years later I'm fighting. All I have is so many fucking goddamn professionals all turning round to me and saying I need closure. Well, how the fuck can I receive closure when nobody's willing to close? It's as simple as that. For the last 6 years alone, I've just been passed and passed and passed and passed, and then it gets delayed and more delays, and then more comes up. And the fact is that I do more and more information searching, and the more information I get, it just backs up my claims even more. But yet still nothing happens. Now, like I said, a lot of you are probably not even fucking bothered about this, because it's nothing to do with you. But really you should. Because the same council that you're paying all your fucking money to are allowing this happen. It's the same with the homelessness. You know those big flats up near fucking Children's Hospital? Those homeless flats, right? They get approximately £260, £270 a week per flat in rent. Now, £150 of that goes for the services that you receive, the concierge and the staff downstairs. Believe me, after dealing with enough homeless people and getting them sorted out, the only person out of that building who I can say has got any credentials about him is Jeff. The women that work there, they're just collecting a wage, them. Concierge, waste of space, because, as you know, if you've been there, the occupants that are there, they just let people in through bottom door. They don't need to come through main door, they just let them in through back door. So people are in them block of flats. So those vulnerable people that council are paying or getting money for, and that lot from the money that you pay in your taxes, and that lot to provide homeless shelter for those vulnerable people, are being left as still in a vulnerable state. Now the thing is, they know this is going off, do fuck all about it. And the smack rats that live on there, God, if you go and sit on that block of flats for a day, you watch, you can actually pinpoint who the fucking dealers are around the area, just by looking out your window. Know what I mean? Because they're like little rats, they scurry. Anyway, that's off the subject. But what I'm saying is, like I said, a lot of you aren't even going to be concerned about this, but you really should, because this is your council that are doing this. Now, I'm one person. I've got care brother and sisters who still haven't come forward for the abuse. And you know why they don't? And why they haven't yet? It's because they've still got children under the age of 18. That is the only reason that they have not brought anything forward to the table. Because they understand that anything that is raised, social services will do their damnedest to make sure that you are the one left feeling guilty. And you are the guilty party. They constantly try to make you feel like that. Because they don't admit anything. Like I said, 22 fucking years I've been having this fight. Well, I ain't going to be running into 23, and this is why I'm doing this. I'm 51 years old this year. I have got an 8-year-old daughter who I want to see grow up and be the fine woman that I know she's going to be. Because she's got my genes and she's got her mum's genes, and believe me, they're a good fucking mix. So if they think they've got trouble coming from me and had trouble from me, oh my God, wait till my daughter is at an age where she starts getting an understanding of what bureaucracy and red tape crap is all about. And then you're going to have even more coming. Like I said, you thought when you adopted my daughter out that she wouldn't make contact. She made contact as soon as she was 18, just like I said, just like I told you she would. And yeah, she's having a fine life. She's graduated at uni, and I'm so fucking chuffed for her. But as you know, it's an adoption that should not have happened. And again, it's another battle that I've got. I've got the paperwork to show that the adoption was illegal. Again, matters that I brought to Terry Fox, our great council leader. Matters that I've had sat on the table with social services and challenging them on. And in all this time, it still remains unanswered. Now again, all I ever get, take it to the government ombudsman. Well, like I said, I had over 30 complaints upheld by the government ombudsman, not once, but twice, and social services still did not meet the requirements what the government ombudsman advised them. And that's all they can do, is advise them. They can't tell them what to do. They have no controlling body on changing anything that social services do, because social services are a self-governed body. But the fact is, they are only here at invitation, and this Sheffield City Council could remove the commission with social services at any time. Oh, and I'd love that day if it ever came. And believe me, if I was in power, that's one thing that I would be pushing for straight away. Because over the 50 years of my life, I have seen more than enough families be destroyed by this agency, and that lot when all it needed was intervention, admittance by the system. And the thing is, the system will never admit to when it is wrong. Now, I've been a thorn in their side for all these years, and I'll continue to be a thorn in their side. Because like I said, I've got my teeth in this. I'm never going to give it up. Not until I've got my apology. But the fact is that apology, after 22 years, is going to cost them a hell of a lot more now than what it did then. And that is for the sole fact that they have allowed this to run into my children's lives and my daughter's life. Like I said, she turned 8 a few weeks ago. I was an absolute ball ache that day. You know what I mean? Because I should not be missing out on seeing her grow up when I cannot take matters back to court until I have resolved and had resolution with social services. The judge has made that pretty clear. In her deliberations, she said that I need to resolve my issues with social services. For the last 5 years, I have had so many fucking head doctors and the spa service and people like that all writing letters of support, all turning round and stating Jason needs closure. But 22 years later, I'm still fighting for that fucking closure. Is that right? Should I be having to go through that fight? Well, like I said, 22 years ain't going to be running into 23rd. And this video, I am going to be making sure gets to the fucking media, just like I promised them. And, well, let's take it from there. Now, anyway, everything should always finish on a happy end. And I hope some of you find this happy anyway, because for me it was a big thing, especially because it impacted someone. The I Love You Bridge. Right. Last November, I finally was granted full copyright on the bridge. So the I Love You Bridge is mine. I've actually been put on Wikipedia, which I thought was quite funny, actually. So if you ever Google it, yeah, I'm there on Wikipedia now. What I did also fight for, which it'll become public once all the bridge goes back up, but what I did fight for was to have a plaque and plinth put in place for Claire to basically gain her recognition, because she would have absolutely loved this story, you know what I mean, and everything to do with it. It was her type of thing, and especially to meet all these pop stars that I have and have all the hype there that was with it. She would have absolutely fucking loved it. But yeah, anyway, to finish on a high note, the bridge is going to be reinstated shortly. They're just finishing off some landscaping underneath, so they've got access to be able to put scaffolding up on the bridge. The message is going back up. It will be back up in neon lights, and underneath it there will be a plaque and plinth placed in place for Claire. Now, again, it's been a 5-year battle, but I took on a fucking agent, a development company, and won, so I'm fairly happy about that. Plus, it maintains something for Sheffield. Now, it had good publicity and everything before. I was going to use that soapbox to actually highlight everything that I've highlighted here, but you know what? I couldn't blacken Claire's name like that. That story I want to be about Claire. That's what she deserves. So this is why I'm doing this now. And yeah, like I said, this video is going to be forwarded to every fucking newspaper around this country, and let's see if someone picks up the story. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I'm now going back to COD because I need to relax my head a bit. Bye.